So welcome all. We'll go over a couple of rules here that we always have. So we always be considerate, we're always kind, and try to be respectful to each other, even though we have varying different opinions on all this. If you have a question, we usually, as I said, raise your hand by pressing the react button. It's usually at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll call out your name, and then you can ask your question. Or if you're a bit shy and you don't want to do it that way, please type up any questions you have in the chat window, which is again down the bottom. And that's a good place if you want to share links and all kinds of stuff, as people are talking as well. And we'll try to get to those questions. And so we had the Rabbit Hole viewers here from Down the Rabbit Hole, a new offering from Future Forecasting Group that we've spun off. They're here to answer any questions on remote viewing in general, the mysteries projects we've been working, project work so far, or anything else related to remote viewing, really. We're going to have Dennis, hopefully in about 10 15 minutes. Dimmy's here. Susan might be along later, and Carl's here. Now, Dennis, Dimmy, and Susan are all students of my flow methodology, and it's great working with these guys. Carl is a longtime friend and colleague who is a CRV trained viewer with years of experience. And myself, Dimmy, and Carl, we've all met up in real life. We met up in London. I've met Carl a few times up in London. I haven't had the honor of meeting Dennis and Susan in real life yet. Hopefully, we will do one day. So yeah, just ask your questions. If you have anything for the viewers that you want to ask them, yeah, just go ahead. They're here to answer your questions. Maybe show some RV if they can pull some up. It depends what the questions are all about. And it's just have fun, really. Just have fun, ask questions, share information, and see where this takes us over the next couple of hours. I've just seen that Susan's here. Hi, Susan. And Dennis is joining us as well. So we have a full team of viewers and me, the tasker, here this evening
Great.
to answer any of your questions. Just wait for Dennis to spin in here. Hello, Dennis.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there. Yeah, you just missed it. I just gave a brief
Yes.
introduction. I won't go through it for you because Dennis is a bit of a veteran in all this as well. We're essentially asking people to put their hand up using the react button down below. Well, whenever they have any questions to ask, or if they are too shy or don't want to do that, they can put it in the chat window, and someone like myself will keep an eye on that and spin those out as well. So let me just break that out from the side panel there. That's a good place to share links and video clips, documents, all kinds of stuff like that, if we feel that we need to as we progress with this. So, welcome everyone. The chat's open, so feel free to stick your hand up, ask any questions. Dimmy, I guess it might be good for the viewers here, Dimmy, Carl, Dennis, and Susan. Maybe just say hi and give a brief introduction about each of yourselves. Do you want to start, Dimmy? You were here first.
Yeah, if it's okay, yes, I can start first. Um, so I don't know, to speak short, to speak long, I don't know. So I'm Demi, and everything it's okay now, as I see people in because I was had a tiny fear that I'd end up talking with empty chairs or to the empty screen, let's say. So my journey into this happened, and it didn't begin in a mystical temple. It began during my medical residency with the horrible spine pain that wouldn't go away. And someone who knew something that I didn't know sent me to an orthopedic doctor in the same hospital. I thought it was just a normal exam. He told me to lie face down. And 5 minutes later, he says, "Well, it's done. You had to get up." So I got up, and the pain was simply gone forever. No manipulation, no injection, no cracking, just something that felt energy work. For a rational medical mind like mine, this was shocking, and it opened a door that was never from that time closed again. So I use some notes to talk about because my English is not very good and I'm not very perfect on trying to describe sometimes things, and I'm a little bit nervous, let's say. So what was the next thing that happened into my life? My mother-in-law spent 2 weeks unconscious in the hospital, and doctor said that she wasn't aware, and her brain was three-quarter filled with blood. And every day I sat next to her and spoke to her, and she responded. She squeezed gentle my hand. She cried. she shook her body when he heard my husband. So I thought that there weren't reflexes. So at least not for me. Doctor said that there are just reflexes from the body, from the less viable cells that were in her body. But I knew that she was there somewhere inside, present and aware. And those 2 weeks did change my life because at that time I started to push into studying consciousness and ease and everything that eventually led me to remote viewing, of course. So I started formally trained in beginning and intermediate CRV with Laurie Williams, amazing teacher. And then something even bigger happened because Daz Smith became my mentor and he gave me structure, discipline, and confidence. And that changed everything in the way I didn't expect for that time. So he taught me how to trust the signal, how to stay authentic, how to RV with integrity, with courage. And for sure, he completely reshaped the way I understand today consciousness, perceptions, and also myself. So I'm grateful for that every single day. I'm also grateful for for my colleagues today here because we know each other since a few years back. We worked previous on project that were founded by Daz. We have Hellfire Remote Viewing Group where we work mystical and wild targets, and it's free if you want to go there. Maybe we will put there in the chat the link to the group. But we met under Future Forecasting Group on this amazing group from today, the Down the Rabbit Hole, and we had absolutely great targets since 1 year. And I think that's it, almost. Thank you.
Thanks, Demi. That was great. Coral, you were next on board, so let's go with you first.
Okay, hi. As a child, I was a precog dreamer, and it was something my mother and my grandmother, and probably my great grandmother, but my mother hated it. And so as a child, I didn't do very much with it. But then I discovered, I think I was about 17 or 18. I discovered the book by Carlos Castaneda about dreaming. You know, his first two or three books were real genuine books. After that, he got carried away with his brilliant writing, and he might have invented more stories. But he was talking about shamanic techniques for lucid dreaming. So I started doing that and learning it, and then much later, once we got the internet, of course, once you get, I didn't have to go into, I used to go into bookstores and just say, I'll just take the first book that comes to me, and I would do all my learning that way. Yeah, I think we all do that. And and then when we got the internet, I was just looking for, I wanted to do formalized shamanic training. And the first site I came across was this really weird site, and it was Lynn Buchanan's. And I just said, okay, well, I have to go. And it was a really scary adventure. But I was in Italy, and America was really expensive, and we had lira, and I had to go into this country I'd never been to. So it was, a really big thing. And Linton, it was all safe. I didn't get sold into the white slave trade or anything like that. I came back safely, and I came back with a brown paper envelope full of pictures that had been stuck out with the number on the back that you had to slide from the envelope and do homework. And we used to have like Yahoo groups, and the Stargate was on one. There was a Stargate forum, and PJ had her site, and yeah, I went back a year later and I did intermediate and stayed on and did advanced. And the couple of years later, I think I was on a group that Daz was on, which was Mad Dog. And then Daz formed his own group and I went with him. And that was 20 years ago, just 20 years ago. It's embarrassing. Um, so yeah, and we've been doing it's practice group read sessions and remote viewing. It's really, really important. Having a group gives you that the will to actually sit down and view. You've got a deadline, you have to do it, and you learn. We learned so much together over the years how to do proper clean tasking, and now all that information's out there available on the internet. But Demi said, and I think the first kind of really public viewing, because when you do it for work, of course, you can't ever talk about it. So it's like and I've done some amazing things that I just can't show or share but the first time we did a public viewing, I think we did it, Daz put it out, and it was the alien interview. So that it wasn't that long ago, actually. We were already on Hellfire, but that was the first time we'd been interviewed and published. And I think for women, it's a lot more difficult to actually get out there, be public, publicize yourself, and go for interviews. And when I survived that, I thought, oh well, I can do it. So when we took, I mean, Hellfire, we'd been doing it, and I think we published some of our work on JumpGate, which was the group we had before. Hellfire's got some amazing, amazing stuff, and when Daz sent the interview, the invite to the Hellfire group, I was going, this is spam. It was like, do you want to see remote view amazing? All sorts of strange things. I went, Daz, is this you? But Hellfire's been an amazing experience. And then we just simply took it one step up, and we're doing it in a more formal way. And again, only Daz is tasking, and the tasking is just unbelievably amazing. And I said publicly, I'll say it again, you're only as good as your tasker, and the person who's actually tasking you is what brings the best out of you. The way the job is structured, that's how you get to be the best that you can be as a remote viewer. And it's the most precious thing in the world. So like Demi says, every day I'll be grateful. I'll be grateful in the same way for that kind of work.
Thanks, for that Carl.
Enough bubbling.
Before we move on to the other guys, John, you got your hand up. Do you want to go now?
No, I'll just wait till everybody's introduced.
All right, thanks, John. Yeah, I just thought I'd check. Dennis, how about an intro from you?
Okay. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. First of all, I'm humbled and grateful for this team that Daz invited us to join here with Rabbit Hole and our history with Hellfire. It's been amazing to work with these women and just watch not only them grow, but what I can learn from them and the unique perspectives they have in what they put out in all of their sessions. I'm always in awe, and I always hate when I have to follow them because they have these amazing sessions that I have to then bring my work behind them. Demi, I see you laughing with your encyclopedias you put out of our targets each month. It's amazing to see how much you talk about your English, Demi, but you write an entire novel every single month with our targets. It's been incredible to watch that happen. So I love it. I'm truly humbled. My journey's been pretty incredible for me. As a kid, always open to the paranormal, had all those weird experiences. You wake up at night, it's like, oh, I'm frozen, I can't move. What's that in my room? So I've always been a truth seeker in looking for things and trying to figure stuff out. I became aware of remote viewing in 97, right before I joined the army, and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to become a psychic spy, and I never did. I couldn't find them. So I went and I got, I was trained in intelligence and stuff, and just kind of keeping this in the background. And then fast forward, I guess 2013, my dad died and had a lot of intense psychic experiences surrounding that. I went through that period of darkness, but through that journey and through that trying to understand things, I was writing a book and I came across Edward Reardon's work. And I was like, this guy seems really interesting, for those of you that followed Edward. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey, can I have you on my podcast that nobody listens to? And he's like, yeah. And he came on. And we had this amazing conversation, as we always do whenever I get to talk to Edward. And a few months later, I get a call from a dark and mysterious voice, and he wanted to come on my show, and it was Michael from Future Forecasting, and it was like a working interview, and through that. I said I went from a guy in my basement to now talking to this amazing group of remote viewers, Daz being one of them, who offered to mentor me. And it was just the opportunity of a lifetime to be, I always say I'm a kid at the grown-ups table. And I got to sit every week and watch these viewers go through their process. I had the master class where I just got to sit there and take it all in. And then I had to interview them. So I got to ask them all these questions. Why did you write that? Why did you explore that? Why did you think to go in that direction? I just got to ask all those questions. And at the same time, Daz is mentoring me and giving me more and more challenges to look at. At the same time, pushing me out there to take those risks and to be comfortable taking those risks. I think that was the biggest thing is to be okay to go out there and just publicly fail and make a mess of something and just talk about it because I think that's important. That's what I've learned to embrace. And with Daz's style, with flow, it fits me in my neurodivergent brain. Structure is important, but too much in structure shuts me down. I need to be able to follow that, like, hey, what is that? I want to go over there and explore that. And I want to jump to this section right now because I want to jump to this stage right now because that's where I feel I need to be. And Daz's system and style has really worked well for me. And he just keeps bringing these opportunities. Hey, Dennis, you want to look at this? It's going to be dark and scary and could be risky. Sure. Sign me up. Let's go look at it, Daz. So we all just, and then pulling in Susan and Demi and Coral and just seeing what everybody brings. It's just been such a really cool journey. My wildest thoughts end up coming true and we get to remote view these neat things. So forever grateful for Daz and for this team for sure.
Awesome, Liz. Thanks for the great introduction there.
Yeah.
Susan, last but not least, let's have your intro.
Just echoing everyone else, it's an amazing experience to view with this group and how it's evolving and discovering, and it's just, yeah, it's fabulous. I love it. I've always been interested in psychic functioning and that kind of stuff, but particularly I've been interested in dream work, psychic dreaming, precognitive dreaming, lots of lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, all that kind of stuff. And then I discovered remote viewing pretty much during the COVID lockdowns. So I started with Laurie Williams and Pam Coronado, and then eventually with Daz. And it's just been amazing. I love it. I just love the whole experience of remote viewing and how it evolves. And yeah, that's basically it. It's just extraordinary and it just keeps changing and evolving, which is exciting. So,
Awesome. Thanks for that, Susan. And I'll just add a little note to this. It's great working with these guys as a team. As a team for Rabbit Hole, we've only actually done 10 targets together. So it's still an early process. Everyone's learning to, I guess, symbiotically work with each other. That's what happens with remote viewing over time in small, trusted teams. You kind of weirdly start to work together with overlaps, and you all have divisions on what the target decides each one of you is going to do and stuff. So I think everyone's still finding their place a little bit, and we're all learning so much from each other. Only 10 targets in, but it's been amazing so far. So yeah, let's open it up to questions now. And John had his hand up first. Let's go to John first.
Yeah, hi. Wow, it's good to see another group that's coherent and successful and enjoying there aren't that many groups over the decades, although in recent years there's been more. I have a ton of questions, but I'll hold off the UFO questions till later. I wanted to ask first about, I believe some of you are getting paid for this work, and I know Coral mentioned about the difficulty of making public when people earn money doing remote viewing, but really that's something that I think needs to be brought more to the fore. For example, some in the past, like transdimensional systems, we did publish some of our work. You can publish, Lynn Buchanan circulates at conferences instances of his client work, which he'll let us look at, not photograph or take away. So in other words, he's sanitized it and made that kind of work available. So I hope that your group also will do that. And I wanted to ask specifically though about Coral, if I can, if you can talk about it. Are you working with Ed May by any chance on using his software?
I have, John, but he's not really doing much at the moment. But I have used it.
Yeah. I just wonder how that was going, if because he had said he was making a lot of money with it when I talked to him 5 years ago.
He
Yeah.
was, but I think the funding stopped, and
Oh,
he's properly retired now.
right,
He had funders in Brazil. He was working mainly with Angela,
right.
uh, but that's ARV. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
quite. I mean, the operational work I was doing before was CRV and sort of quite in-depth sessions, looking for things, or the weirdest questions, the most incredible things. But often we weren't getting feedback from clients, and of course we had signing things, so we can't disclose anything. But I really have seen and done some amazing things as an operational viewer, but not just in ARV. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, I
Okay,
mean,
thanks.
Ed uses ARV for research, and he uses that software and these dreadful pictures, very, very plain pictures that your subconscious really has. And then he works it out at the end. And he does a whole lot of calculations, and he says your number of merit is so and so. That's
Yeah,
very good. And then that's
yeah,
as far as it goes. He said the
right.
average is this, and your number of merit is that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm very, very pleased. And and
right.
that's it. So.
Well, just briefly on that, if I may, Ed software, we used it in the Applied Precognition project extensively, and then he revised it, and Marty Rosenblatt's been using it and has achieved the greatest success in ARV in APP using that software. And now, since Marty's quite ill, they're going to try to have was going to take them under their wing, and presumably that same software will be used that Ed devised. So that's just sort of factual in case other people hadn't heard that news. But thanks. I'll save my UFO questions for later on. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, John, that's the GARV group that's having success. It's a unitary. They're using it because,
Yeah.
APP's got lots of different groups. It's
Yes.
the GARV
It's
group.
called it's called eGarv.
Yeah,
E
eGARV.
for
Yes.
E stands for Ed May and
Yeah.
the group
Yeah.
ARV. Right.
Yes. And
Okay.
it's unitary ARV, which is the big difference. You only get the feedback picture. There's no choice. Whereas
Well,
my,
it's not unitary because there are two photos, but you only get feedback of one. Unitary ARV has only one photo.
yeah.
Period. So yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for that, John. I don't see any hands up yet from anyone in the room here, so I have some questions from Facebook. We have some standard ones like, and any of you guys can answer this. I guess we covered it a little bit, but they've asked, how did you become what we call a professional remote viewer, and what did it require? If anyone wants to handle that one.
Well, I'll take that. So what it requires is somebody who's a project manager who knows you, and who's seen you, who's worked with you, and that's how, I mean, it happened in our group in Jumpgate in the early days when we had one of the viewers went and set up on their own and started trying to sell, remote viewing as a technique where you could do things with. So selling that to clients, but it takes an account manager, somebody who can propose the business to somebody, and who's prepared to work with a couple of years. So I know, I mean, I've studied project management and I've done project manager before. I did the project management course on Irva with Gail Husik, and it's very, very heavy going being a project manager. It's really now, I mean, we've got AI tools that we can make full use of, but if you use more than, say, four viewers, you're going to do even then four times the amount that every single viewer has done. So if a viewer gives you a 60-page session, which some of us have been doing, you know, that's 60 times 4. That's a hell of a lot of information to plow through. So professional viewing's a lot about not just viewing, but about the hard slog of having a really good project manager and somebody who's got connections with people who've got money, because it's not easy to sell that amount of work to somebody. There used to be some days you used to get like $1,000 per job, but so you think there's four viewers, they're getting $1,000 each, and then you've got a project manager who should be getting $4,000 and doing that kind of thing. That's a big wad of money to spend for something that's not mainstream, that people are saying, oh, what is this stuff? That so professional viewing is it's something apart from the viewing aspect, where you have to learn to do perfectly clean, beautiful sessions. I saw somebody else's session and they were an architect. So normally we just scroll all our pages, and I saw this session of an architect and it was exquisite. I've told you this one before, Dennis, right? This absolutely beautiful architect writing with perfectly clean drawings on the pages. And I thought, well, I mean, if I was a project manager, I'd choose the clean sessions, wouldn't I? Because you can read everything on the page. So there's that kind of thing too that, you have to take into consideration. Typed summaries. Yeah, I still have people sending me sessions like with scrolls and not even a proper written summary. So there's a lot involved.
Any of you other guys want to add anything before I do to that one?
I'll just add, the putting in the time. That's a huge piece to it. Not just as a viewer working on your craft, but as Coral said, the presentation. Daz, at the beginning of this of Rabbit Hole, was still telling me, dude, you need to fix your handwriting. I was like, dude, I've been trying to fix my handwriting for 46 years, and it's just, so I had to really. I tried software, it wasn't working. So it's a lot of work, as Coral was saying. You get to a point where it's like, well, people are paying for this. I want to have a clean product. So beyond just the really fun, esoteric exploration, you then start thinking about, well, what am I giving people who are paying me to do this, which is such a great honor. I want to make sure they're getting the best possible thing. So every month I'm trying to clean up my work even more. I'm taking a sketching course, so it doesn't directly affect my remote viewing. It affects the final product because I want my drawings to get better so I can go beyond stick figures. And then I look at Susan's work, who is this brilliant artist, and I look at my stick figures. It's like I've got a long way to go with my presentation. So I think you find all these little areas to continue to improve that go beyond spending time in session as well, just to make your product, stronger and cleaner and nicer to look at.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that. I've been working with Dennis now in future forecasting group for Dennis. How long have you been working there now? I've been there 9, 10 years now.
Probably eight, seven
Probably
or
right,
eight
yeah.
years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And that's grown to such a large scale. There's three teams of viewers now, including the Rabbit Hole viewers. There's the A team and then there's the B team. So that's like 14, 15 paid remote viewers now. And I think we have a back staff of around about 12 to 15 people to
I
support
think
that.
it's bigger than that, Des.
Is
It's
it?
it's a big staff. Yeah.
So we have project managers, we have target people that do the research as well. We have social media people that take all the videos and make social media posts. We have video editors. I think we even have um our own invoicing kind of area now. We have a financial
Yes,
office
there,
somewhere, don't
there's
we? I know it.
financial people. There's yeah, they have
Mm.
all. I mean, it's a real company. The
Yeah.
goal from the beginning was that the viewers wouldn't have to do all that stuff. The
Yes.
company was set up to keep the viewers comfortable and happy, so they could focus on just the viewing.
Just
But
viewing. Yeah.
understanding if you want to pay viewers to do it, you need a whole team of people to deal with all the other stuff
Yeah.
in this competitive world of look at
All
our
the
product
admin.
on
Yeah.
YouTube, right? To get all that going, and
Yeah.
they've really structured that well.
Yeah. So yeah. So to we're not saying to you guys don't go out and do it on your own. But you generally, to succeed, probably have to do it with groups of people, and you have to have a support system as well. You can't, as viewers, also do all the admin, all the video editing, all the social media, and everything else. It's best to try to output that to someone else and do like we've been doing. And you as the viewers, all you've got to do is sit down and view several times a week for them instead. But just to give someone else a bit of an idea as well, the people that don't know what Hellfire do, we're doing a project a month through Hellfire at the moment. So that's around like 4 to 5 weeks on each project. I'm the tasker, and these guys doing the viewing. And on average now, for as I said, we've done 10 targets so far through Hellfire, something like Hellfire, sorry, Rabbit Hole.
Rabbit hole. Yeah.
Rabbit. I know there's so many groups I get mixed up myself. Um, and each target, said there's 4 viewers working it, and they're giving me back an approximate 250 to 350 pages of data each target that they do. Some of the data is obviously repeated because we're going back in with retaskings and they're getting ideogram type data. But there is a huge wealth of data there. And we have to be honest, because we're putting out a monthly product with a quick, I say a quick, but it's a 2 hour debrief video going through all this data at the end of the month. We No one at the moment is making good value of that wealth of information. We have these 300 pages on each target that we're doing. That someone at some point, maybe we can get an AI to do it very near in the future. Someone could do a real data analysis of all that and really put out some hardcore data, but we just don't have the time to do that at the moment. But that's just some of the things we're doing as what we call professional remote viewers, and the guys themselves are getting paid, and I'm getting paid to do this as the tasker as well. But bearing in mind, we are doing this, as you can tell, through a subscriber base as well. So it's not like some people are going out there with their RV businesses and trying to get, business to business relationships. I think that's a much harder route to try to get people to be paid full time, month on month as remote viewers. It's just not there yet. But if you go out and do like we're doing, which is what I call infotainment, it's a bit of information and there's also entertainment wrapped up together. I think the market is way bigger. And as you know, we're doing it, and we are part of Future Forecasting Group with this and what we're doing there. Courtney Brown's been doing it for many years as well with his Farsight. And there are other small groups out there doing it as well. Birdie's back doing a similar kind of stuff as well. There are other viewers that I won't name that are doing it online. And there are other small groups that are starting to come up as well. And David, who's here as well, David Harker, he's got a small team out there at the moment, and they're doing a similar FFG type, predicting the news type stuff as well. And they're putting videos out there at the moment. So hopefully we'll see more from them in the future as well. I can see there is no hands up, so I'll carry on with the questions I've got here. The next question I got off of Facebook was, has the journey of becoming a remote viewer changed you in any way or your beliefs on life? That's a hard one.
I could try on this. First of all, I just want to add something to the previous, just in short. The hardest part on remote view for me was to think and to write in English. This was very hard because for years I was trying to think only in my native language, which is Romanian. So it was really hard to exercise my thinking and my writing and trying to exercise the subconscious to let him think and do things in English. This is the hardest part for me. It was the hardest part. So for the second thing that was Jesus, I forgot the question.
The pathway to becoming a professional remote viewer.
So I think the most important thing for me it was to practice every day and to let know people that we are doing this and we are doing that, and to get in touch with whatever things you have here. But I think the most important thing, I think it was about the changing life. Yes, I recall the question. So I thought at first, and I'm done with what I'm going to say now, because I thought that if you are doing remote viewer, then you have a spiritual life. And that's a mistake because it's nothing about spiritual life. It's about an ability that all we have here, and we choose to use it in different way. So the first time when I see that that was happening, that I was drawing perfectly clear things, I was seeing and feeling what I felt on the target. When I've seen the target for the first time, I think I jumped and I was almost shout out to everybody. I was done it. I was done it. So I think it's changed my life in things, in ideas, in the way I see the world now, and I can let a lot of door open because of that in my life. It's maybe a twisted answer, but I don't know.
Thanks for that, Dimi. Brendan, you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. Yep.
Okay. I do have a question. It's towards any of you. There's a lot of doom and gloom type projects out there. You know, a lot of negative ET, negative future, um, technocracy, prison planet, catastrophes, etc. There's also a growing field of energy healers. Dr. Joe Dispenza is one who's having 5,000 people show up to his events. They sell out in a couple hours, and the most amazing things happen there. And you're seeing 10-foot light beings appear, and they will grab a limb and literally heal somebody. Charlie Goldsmith did a project on TV. He's an energy healer. These beings have also appeared in some of his work. Jerry Sargent, another one. I'm just wondering if you guys have any idea what these light beings are. And clearly, you know, Carl Jung always told us there's an equal and opposite to everything in the universe. What what is your perspective on this kind of, you know, good versus evil type thing?
I can start with that one. This is something I like to look at quite a bit. I'm a Reiki teacher, so I definitely look at the energy healing aspects of things. Actually, with Hellfire, I ran the project for Dr. Usui, looking at Reiki energy, and that was a cool one because we didn't expect to get Mars technology, so that was a neat thing to see. Um, I think that the doom and gloom stuff has much better press than the love and light stuff and the healing stuff and the positive stuff and the happy stuff. I think it's an easier sell to go, oh, watch out, something scary is happening. People are going to click that as opposed to like, this is this amazing healing thing. Um, but I think it's important for us to make sure we stay grounded with that perspective that like this scary stuff is out there and it's interesting, but we also have all this positive stuff that's going on. I'm not familiar with everything that you mentioned, but there is there is good out there. There's beautiful things out there. What they are, I can't say for sure. I do think that some of this energy that brings healing is the equivalent to the Force, or you know Reiki or Chi, or in Christianity they call it the Holy Spirit. I think there's an intelligent energy that runs through. I have had very profound experiences looking at life after death, and I think there's a cast of subspace entities, and their job is to refine consciousness and to help us heal as we go through these life reviews, to help our own consciousness to process things. I think that the dark, scary stuff that we go through sometimes, to our perspective, in that snapshot of time, seems awful and torturous, and we can go down. I've been down the prison planet. I wrote a book about it. Like, you know, the archons are feeding on us, and this is awful. And that perspective exists, but I think the bigger perspective is that we're here to learn, we're here to grow. And I think there are energies and forces out there that guide us through that. And sometimes our consciousness needs to have that horrible thing happen. I wouldn't be a remote viewer if I didn't watch my dad suffer and die. It was awful, but going through that forced me to ask questions. It forced me to push myself through that dark night of the soul. And in the remote viewing experiences I've had, seeing these helpers come through, different stages of that transition when people are dying, they seem very scary. And then as the person starts to heal, the experience can change. And now they realize, oh, these beings are helping me to go through to get to where I need to go. So I can't say for sure exactly what they are. I think there's several different casts or energies or frequencies that are out there, really designed to help our consciousness grow. At least that's been my experience.
Any of you other guys want to add anything to that before we move on?
I
And
just want
Brendan,
to add something. If it's, I think what you described, it's very much like Chris Bledsoe experience. That is. So it's weird, but it touched that aspect.
I'll have to look at that. Maybe I looked at it a while ago, but thanks, Timmy. I'll take a look at that and compare it.
Brendan, is that okay? Does that answer your question? Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
John, you wanna ask one next?
Yeah, well, first, Dennis, that's really profound what you were saying, and just I don't know what to say about that except that sorry you had to go through it, but it sounds like it's come out really good for you. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit more about UFOs too, and also on your sessions in your project. But just so people are aware, I'm not a skeptic of UFOs. I've been following them since 1952. I work with Birdie now, and she's totally into UFOs, and Chris Bledsoe. They taught together and so forth. So I'm very much a believer, as it were, in UFOs. However, I've always felt that, unless there's confirmation, it's speculative. And in New Thinking Aloud, recent issue by Jeff Mishlove, he talks about Angela T. Smith, who had wrote a whole book about sitting at a computer and interacting with 26 different or so kinds of aliens, but it's speculative. And so Bernie is very convinced that she can have conversations with aliens. I've never had a UFO experience. I don't, I think it's possible and that people do, but since not having had the experience, I'm a little bit at a disadvantage. But if I could move to the sessions you guys did, it was clear that several of you were really right on target with this Kummergaz UFO sighting and filming over Sea of Marmara, I guess, near Turkey. I went through all 266 pages or whatever it is, and congratulations to Daz for kind of pilot and for you guys for viewing it. And there's a lot of definite about pilots, flight paths, and so forth. And Susan drew these amazing figures of UFOs, of aliens rather, and Demi and Coral also have aliens. And my question is kind of like they seem to be different, those three aliens. I don't know if anyone's written up a summary, or Dad, if you feel that have AI write up a summary of the comparison between the different portrayals of aliens. But just in general, very impressed that you're doing this work. And just if you have any comments on what I raised, I'd appreciate it, or we can move on to other questions.
Who's gonna go? So, um, John, I trained with Lynn Buchanan, and for years he wouldn't let us do any woo-woo stuff. I had to have projects that had absolute verifiable feedback, and for years I would stay a really long way away from that kind of thing. And now, like in a session, I said, okay, well, it's aliens again, and it's fine. I'm trusting my subconscious to see what's out there and just allow me to interact and connect. And I have seemed to find that there are different races indeed. and this did seem to be a very different race to what I've ever seen before. And you would have seen in my session that I said they're not part of the Draco race, and they have an agreement they're free, but they really felt like they had Earth DNA. That they were here before us, long, long before, and they really seemed to be amazing beings. So you couldn't really call them aliens because they're probably more earth than we are, basically. It feels like they've been here longer, and they do feel more advanced, and I think they travel. I think most of us all said that they're connected with the moon, but I had this feeling that they kind of um, the Earth situation is not the best for them at the moment, but they can't just move their whole civilization lock, stock, and barrel. They are under some kind of constraint, business. I don't know. There's some kind of rule that's going on, but they can travel, and they do amazing work. Um, yeah, it was an extraordinary encounter this time, and I had never come across beings like this before. So
Yeah.
they weren't greys.
Hmm.
They were. I was going in the session, going, "What? Who? What do I have in front of me?" And I kept going. It's like squirrely, tortoisey. It definitely. They did have big eyes, but they weren't grey. The greys, the big-headed, big black-eyed creatures. So they're quite fine but small.
Yeah.
Guys, help me out here.
Let me ask a follow-up if I could quickly.
Yeah,
Like when we do it with Prue or Birdie, she encouraged us to have dialogues with the aliens, and I've had some, and she's impressed with them. I'm not because I don't feel like it's real, but she's impressed. So my question is to you and the other folks: did you have mental communication with them? What's telepathy or
yeah.
language? Because
Yeah,
okay,
it's
yeah.
it's there in my session, and I do in my session of that one. Every time I arrived there, because I do a little bit and then I stop and then I go back, so because I don't get any AOLs, I stop myself quickly before I start building up stories.
Hmm.
But there in my session, those are my creatures, right? Um, I would talk to them every time I popped in. Every time I probed, I made contact. They would pop a guardian over to keep tabs on me, and I spoke to the guardian, and I said a couple of things, and they definitely did communicate. They laughed. They said that we were really, clumsy, stupid beings, and he actually in that session, in my session on when I said to them, well, why can't we communicate easily? I think he said it was too difficult to communicate. And he said, well, why? He said, well, your frequency is like an octave too low to be able to do it. So I said, well, how can we do it so that I can communicate? And he gave me detailed instructions about how to build some kind of a machine that I named a Tesla plate, that I could stand on, and that would raise my octave, and so that then they'd find communication easier. But I was specifically told that the communication with us was difficult because of that frequency difference. But sometimes you get beings who are very psychic, and then the communications are very fluid, and they can overcome that barrier of us being such a low level vibration. You realize that humans are we really are pathetic little creatures, compared to all these other beings that we've been encountering.
If I could just interject real quick, Coral, in my session, I wasn't able to communicate with these beings on this one. I was having some difficulty really feeling like connecting with them, but at one point I wrote, they're psychic. And then I wrote, "Hi, Coral." And then I found out that Coral was actually talking to them. So I think she was just hogging the psychic airwaves with these aliens. And I saw it in my session because I specifically called her out. Hi, I don't know why I wrote "Hi, Coral," but then she's telling us about all these great conversations she had. I was like, well, I was waiting in line to talk with them and I wasn't able to because she had this great experience with them for sure.
Well, I mean, I was just downloading the instructions on building this. So, and it's a plasma plate. So I'm looking for somebody who can work with plasma, who can help me build the damn thing.
Before we move on, Duncan, you have a question? Is it related?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a related question talking about aliens. My question was that after all of your experiences through remote viewing with aliens, different races, and things like that, and your interactions with them, have you come to some conclusion about whether these races are, let's, say, positive or negative? You know what I mean? Have you come to some conclusion like, are there some good guys or some bad guys or something like this? And the reason I ask this is because, as far as I understand from UFO researchers, I'm not an expert on this or anything, but as far as I understand from UFO researchers, um, there's a strong correlation between the negative type experiences where people are abducted and strange operations are done on them, as opposed to when people are, these abduction things that they're done against people's will. In other words, some of these alien races doing the abductions don't respect the wishes of the people, right? But some alien races, according to some accounts, do. So, yeah, my understanding was that there's a strong correlation with these negative type abductions with greys, with the grey alien. So my question is, you know,
And
do
Draco.
yeah, do you understand? Do you have any understanding about what is negative or positive from your remote
Well,
viewing
well,
interactions?
there are humans doing experiments on humans too without their permission or respect.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you're saying that there can be both good and bad groups within one race. That's what you're saying.
Well, if you walk into a room and the room itself is there's some, women have this particularly more refined than men because women are often in a lot of danger, much more than men. If you walk alone on the street at night time, it's a dangerous thing. So if I walk into a room, I'll feel the air straight away, and I'll know if I'm in a dangerous place or not. And the same with walking outside of my home. If there's a gang, on the road down there, I'll feel it before I get to the road and come back. And it's the same thing when you remote view. It's the same. You're using the same sense. So if you come across a group of other beings and they're dangerous, you'll definitely feel it. You pick it up in some way. Yeah, Daz has had some terrifying experiences, but there's some races I definitely do not like, and others that I've found to be, you know, gentle.
We
So
did
they,
in the rabbit hole though. I think that in the second project we did, you guys did do a great project when we worked with Debbie Cordell. She was
Hubble.
made
Cobble,
Yeah.
yeah,
Deb
she
Cobble,
was
yeah.
made famous from the book and the TV film The Intruders by Bud Hopkins. And
Hmm.
she had an experience in the I think it was in the late 70s, or if I remember correctly, a bedroom experience where she had an and this is one that she recalls without hypnosis. She had an experience with some grey beings that were in a room that showed her a box, and she wanted to know what was in that box. So we tasked these guys to have a look at that whole experience. Um, and they went into great detail. Well, yeah, especially Coral went into great detail about the box itself and what was inside it. But you all met a non-human kind of intelligence on that target, which was obviously expected. How did you feel about that? Was it a negative type being or a positive type being, would you say?
Uh, just remember, I'm trying to remember that session.
So
Um,
many so many sessions.
but from what I gather from that, and I think overall with a lot of these beings, again, I don't think we can say they're all bad, they're all good. I mean, I think everything has its own intentions and their own agendas. I think sometimes also there's indifference from them. They have a job to do, and that job maybe impact us in a way that feels very, very scary for us, for whatever that may be. We are guilty of it as well with the animals that we work with. Sometimes we're helping an animal, we're giving it surgery, we're giving it medication, we're giving it a attacker to gather scientific data so we can understand its habitat better, so we can better protect that species. That could be a traumatic experience for that animal. Dimi tasked us to look at, with Hellfire, we looked at Skinwalker Ranch, and I clearly remember that session. It was an amazing session, and I was looking at planting of knowledge. And they give this information to one person, and then he disseminates it. And this is a theme I've seen several times. So it was this traumatic, awful experience, and this person was terrified, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so bad." But then the end result of that was people were being brought into knowledge and expanding their awareness and expanding their consciousness. And they understood that like this is going to be scary for this guy. If it's not scary, he's not going to talk about it this way. People aren't going to listen if he's like, I had this beautiful experience with my space brothers, as opposed to like they're torturing me. It gets more impact for people. Does that happen? Yeah, I think that there's nefarious things out there. Circling back to Deb Cobble's experience, I don't think they were necessarily negative. I think they were training her for something. They were showing her something, preparing her for something, and teaching her how to use technology. And I suspect she only recalls a tiny fragment of what she has really been programmed to do. Was that for some kind of enslavement or nefarious purpose? I don't think so. I had a chance to interview her, given her other experiences. I don't think they were trying to torture her at all. I think they were preparing her for something, whatever that might be.
I've got angelic beings at Debbie Cobble
Mhm.
session, and I also think that our personal biases
Yeah,
could shape the way we see whatever aliens or NHI we encounter during sessions. So I think it's very important
yeah. I think that's
bring it
good to
up.
know that we can't get away from the fact that we will probably as remote viewers bring our own noise into the remote viewing as well, which may be why, as John said in his question, why some of the traits of the sketches from the Turkey UFO that we were looking at and I put on screen, some of the traits are different. There are lots of commonalities. All the viewers described them as really skinny, small, large eyes, that kind of thing. But there were slight differences. Like Coral had a gill system on the back of the neck, she felt. Uh, but then Dimmy had these big pointy ear things. In my analysis, I was thinking that Dimmy might have been misinterpreting the pointy gills that Carl was saying and thinking they were ears and stuff. But at the same time, I think we do inject some of our own belief system into every remote viewing target we look at, including and probably more so on these esoteric ones because we don't have 100% feedback on all these.
And Daz, that's a good segue for Andy's question in the chat that he posted a little bit ago. If I want to direct you to that, or I can just read it for you,
Yeah, go
but
for
I
it.
think it's relevant to that. Question for the viewers: at some point, you might realize you're working a certain esoteric target. What's your approach to avoid pulling in your preconceived information to the session? Any tips besides going for the unknown? I'll let someone else from the team answer that first, if somebody else would like to talk about that.
You guys have any tips?
Oh, I
I'm
can
gonna.
say like, you do me?
No, 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 go
Oh.
ahead.
No, I think it is strong sense. I start breaking it down as like it's an AOL straight away. And sometimes I'll actually even just stop the session, have a break, and come back to it. Or just move myself to another part of the target to try and, because if you know what you're looking at, or if you think you know what you're looking at, you're missing the whole opportunity to view something that's unknown. And you're always looking for that kind of like surprise in the session that can take you down somewhere. And that's when I find it gets really exciting. But just keep putting it aside, breaking it down, or just moving yourself somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a feeling. I'll write it out there. Like, I think Dad sees this all the time in my sessions. I keep getting an AOL of this. I need to move past this. Like, I have to say the whole thing out loud in my session. I don't want to tell a story that I'm already familiar with. So I will keep declaring it. I'll keep moving to something else, and then it'll hit, and it's just a feeling, a flow state. Now I can't write it down fast enough, the information that I have. But sometimes I have to keep coming back and declaring that thing to push it out of the way to say, yep, I'm getting this idea, but this is what I know about it, and I need to get rid of that and move past it. And sometimes I'll just stop. I'll stop right there and come back another day.
Awesome,
And
thanks for that, guys.
we've had that though. I mean, on the Shroud of Turin, we were all writing down Jesus, Buddha, light being, illumination. And even on the Mars, we all had Mars down in like on the first page. It feels like Mars here, or the pyramids of Giza. We all had that down as our AOLs, but we just set it aside and carried on. And Susan says you know, you want to get a chance to actually get in there, not describe what you think you know.
Talking about the because you moved on to the Shroud of Turin one. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about what you got on that one? Because that's another controversial kind of mysteries kind of target. Um, and I thought, when we were going through the sessions and you guys were seeing it for the first time in the debrief and you were seeing other's information, I could actually feel through the screen the emotional responses you all got from, because you all described an energy event that was being involved, and it was just very interesting to see each of your internal kind of processes on that. What do you think about the Shroud of Turin based on your information and your experiences of that one?
Can I start? First of all, I think when I read back time Lynn Buchanan book, at some point he says that he remote viewed Jesus. And I thought that was the most amazing thing that could ever happen to a remote viewer. And when I met with this target and with Jesus, it was the most, I have never had these feelings, this sensation. Such a kind person, such a spiritual person, and I have not enough time and words in English to describe his holiness, his way of touching things. But what I've got here in my session, because our point on target was the Shroud of Turin, uh, was that the energy that was released was happened after the body was not longer there, at least in the way we think people are alive or dead, and it was happened with the intensity or anything like plasma, and it absolutely creates an absolutely amazing and powerful light, white light, but not light, that powerful plasma type of energy light that embedded the thing there and created the image. It was absolutely amazing. The session, the person, I felt amazing when I did this target, and I'm forever grateful for this one. So, in short, that's it.
Any of you
I
other
think
guys want to go through yours?
I'll just say what was neat about that target, and this is just me learning my process as a remote viewer, was seeing the lens of how I view the world, or at least view the world, the universe, existence at the time. Um, I had this energetic transference, which felt like a shift to another dimension, which looked very similar to some of the Gnostic texts, looking at aeons and aeonic copies, um, which my interpretation of that is very similar to, a virtual reality system. And my data very much reflected that. And I think what I saw was the transition of Jesus to, at one point, I drew a glowing city up in the clouds, the kingdom of heaven, or however you want to interpret that. So I think it was neat to see that. But at the end, we were all describing, if you break it down, the same thing. So mine was kind of futuristic and a little bit technical with this transition to another reality system. But we all had this intense, energetic light, could be the Holy Spirit itself, interacting with this life form with such intense power. And then he's gone. And then it left that impression, that radiant silhouette on the shroud itself. And it was really neat to see that. And then what's neat about the team, the more we work together, is the division of effort among us. So we get just enough to corroborate to say, hey, you're all looking at the same thing, but then we all go and get our own little pieces of data as well to tie the whole picture together. And just seeing it with future forecasting, the more targets we work together, the more harmonized our consciousness becomes as we start to really dissect targets.
Yeah, thanks for that, guys. John, you had your hand up. Do you want to go next?
Moving from the sublime to the mundane, Daz and I had a difference a long time ago about literal and metaphorical data. And I noticed that Jimmy actually said, I think this is metaphorical in my session. And I wonder, Daz, if you've changed your mind a little bit about that as to the value of metaphorical data, if you incorporate that in your analyses, or if you're pretty much strictly literal data.
That's a good question. I feel I hardly see it in RV data, especially in methods viewers data or and derivatives of CRV. Um, Dimmy does get it occasionally. I don't, and Dennis does as well because Dennis is very intangible based. A lot of his data is intangible because that's his interest in life is following people, how the subconscious works, interaction, and all this kind of stuff. So he goes along those routes as well. Uh, but I don't value it in RV. I have to be honest. I put it to one side. I'm very hardcore. It has to be physical, and I quite often say to Dennis, "Okay, I love your stuff. You're getting all this intangible stuff, but now touch the target. Tell me what the target smells like, tastes like, feels like. I want dimensions. I love your intangible stuff, but I now need your tangible stuff. So, yeah, I don't see metaphorical as as much value. Sometimes it has if it's very in your face and very obvious, I feel it has a value. But the rest of the time, I just put it one side because I don't want to spend the time trying to work out the analysis. Does this fit? How does it fit? Where does it fit? I'm a bit more straight-laced, hardcore. Okay, is it hard? Is it soft? Is it cold? Is it wet? That kind of attitude.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Let me just ask though, if the other viewers, if you feel the metaphorical data is something that you really value, or if it gets in the way, or just how you view it, if you can speak on that a little bit.
I can say something. Sometimes I get something that's more metaphorical. I also do a lot of dream work, so I'm used to like breaking things down. And sometimes I think it's when I'm trying to get maybe a particular quality or nuance about the target that I'm not quite getting. And it might even just be a word or a phrase. And then I'll go back into the target to the more, tangible things. But I actually find it helps me sometimes.
Great.
I'll speak just the way that my mind works, just in everyday waking life. I think this is being ADHD is I'm kind of making comparisons to things. Anytime someone makes a comment, I can reference usually a movie that it reminds me of. And I've noticed that in RV that happens. All my sessions, I have an idea of a movie scene. And what that is I think it's like conceptual telepathy. I get the whole packet of the essence of what I'm looking at described in that memory of a 3-second movie clip. Close Encounters when the being's putting his hand up in the air to greet and introduce everybody as they're landing. I'll get a glimpse like that. I know this isn't what's happening at this target, but it's describing the interaction of something foreign, and the energy is scary and exciting and ultimately positive, but there's a lot of eyes on it trying to understand it. So my mind just naturally works that way to understand it, and then I have to go through and unpack it. There are times when it gets in my way because then that's a dangerous thing because then it can lead you on this AOL, and I have to be very careful making sure I'm acknowledging I'm comparing a movie right now, but it's because that's how my mind immediately interprets most of the world through something that I remember,
Yeah.
and going through it. I enjoy that though, and Daz is
Hmm.
right. At the end of the day, I need to validate that I'm hitting the target and not making stuff up.
Yeah.
I enjoy going on those tangents because I like to explore what are they feeling, what are they thinking, what's this esoteric meaning behind that. To me, that's very valuable. It's very spiritual for me. But I need to describe who they are, what they look like, where are they, what's the building look like. And that's a challenge for me at times. So Daz does a very good job of saying, "Great, now tell me what it looks like." And I like, oh, but I was enjoying this so much, and I have to go back and work through it. And that's just a point of growth for me. But I do think there's value in that. But most viewers, they want to be able to just sit down and draw the target without giving the what it might look like or the comparison.
But
Yeah.
can I speak to that too? I mean, we all come from the branch of controlled remote viewing, which is very structure heavy and data heavy. I mean, the military it's structured those protocols so that they could go and spy and bring back real factual information. We've obviously adapted it going along to our present day lives and to the kind of targets we're viewing, but metaphorical is no use to anyone. When we viewed the Shroud of Turin, to go back to that, I mean, we all had intense spiritual experiences because we were in the presence of this being, that it was it was ineffable. Honestly, the words to describe it. And like Susan, I also do dream work, and I dreamt about the being as well. This person, and I felt like I was in love for months after that. It was just extraordinary. It was, and we still, if we talk about it, I mean, I can feel my heart expanding now, and that experience of that energetic experience. So there was science. They have done this latest research about that shroud and the flash that it imprinted. So there's scientific research about that. Duncan's just pasted it. That might have been our feedback link, huh, Daz? He's just pasted it in the chat. But they actually scientifically proved that the cloth wasn't burnt, but that it required an enormous amount of radiation to imprint the image on that. And we all have these drawings, and Dash showed you. There's my drawing, this toroidal. I'm going. And right in the beginning, there's an energetic event, and there's a man. And I followed the man for quite some time, and then Daz moved me to the event. But there you see, and at one stage I actually said, oh, it's like Jacob's Ladder, which is that William Blake painting of ascending, right? And in my dart I said it's like crossing the envelope, pushing through the envelope, changing dimensions. So, you know although we don't actually know how that radiation, that flash happened enough to imprint it, but it was, you could only describe something so ineffable with metaphorical terms, basically. And the energy of that man as well was just absolutely extraordinary. It was, I don't know. I mean, words fail me. You could describe it in poetry. You'd need Rumi to talk about something like that. But we did describe an energetic event, some kind of flash, some kind of toroidal energy. So although it was, yeah, although we used metaphorical terms, it was a real event that they haven't been able to prove scientifically yet, other than that there was some kind of instant of radiation when this happened.
Does that answer your question, John? Do you want to add to it or anything?
Just to say thanks for the insight into how your group thinks about it, and 2 or 3 cheers for metaphors. Here, here, here. Thank you.
Hey, if it's easy to understand, I'm all right. But as you know, as a person that has to go through 300 pages of RV data, I I need as much hard data as metaphorical. And if the metaphorical helps the viewer, you know, get through their process and they're enjoying it, they're learning it, I'm happy with that as long as I can then go to them, okay, that's good, but I need code hard data, you know, because yeah,
Absolutely. And in Mavericks, we try to get more direct data and less metaphorical, although there's a much stronger emphasis on metaphorical data in Mavericks.
yeah.
But
And
I
weirdly,
think,
John, although I say I don't like metaphorical data, um, I think I've told you this in when in crypto viewing now, when we're looking at cryptos, and you know everyone knows that cryptocurrencies they're generally not physical; they don't exist. This last 6 months, I started this process where I will actually try to move into the consciousness of a crypto.
mm, mm.
And every time I do that, I might be able to put up a session to show you in a minute. I do a little comedic kind of sketch for some reason of what that personality of that crypto looks like. And, you know, it'd be things like a little barking puppy or a big red bus with a big smile. So with that approach, I am getting metaphorical data rather than hard data. But it's only because I think the actual the thing that I'm looking at literally physically does not exist.
Well, that's very creative, and congratulations. And I saw
And
some of
yeah,
your
it is
chart.
becoming quite accurate. Like the very
Yeah,
first time I did it, I had a puppy. I drew a puppy, and the crypto we were looking at was one called was Dogecoin, and its logo is a puppy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Duncan, you have a question?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was about the shroud again. And I thought, I wanted to say something, and then the conversation moved on, and then Coral brought it back to the shroud again, and I think she just basically said everything that I was going to say. But I'm not sure if you have a lot of feedback about the shroud. But my understanding was about the shroud that the image on the shroud is a three-dimensional image. It's a hologram, which means that a normal two-dimensional image would be like a photograph, but a hologram is a photograph with an image which has depth, right? So it has depth as well as a two-dimensional image. It's a three-dimensional image. And of course, there's no way that they could make a three-dimensional image onto any type of surface. 2,000 years ago, that technology didn't exist. And yeah, from what I understand, in order to create that type of holographic image on the material of the shroud, what was needed was an extremely high intensity X-ray burst. So an X-ray is a photon or electromagnetic wave in the X-ray region. It's very high energy. In fact, it's damaging to humans, X-rays. So yeah, so at that point, whatever happened at that exact point of energy release, it was imprinted onto the shroud. Now, as far as I understand from normal Christianity, Jesus rose and he came out of the tomb, and then he was seen by Mary Magdalene and some others, and he said, "Don't come near me, don't touch me," for some reason. But somebody else mentioned the Gnostic texts, and my understanding from the Gnostic texts is that when Jesus came out of the tomb, meaning after he'd gone through this whatever happened underneath that shroud, when he came out of the tomb, he was in a body of light. In other words, when he was resurrected, he didn't just get up like a normal guy and start walking around. He became an angel basically, and this is according to some of the Gnostic texts. And then he went around teaching the disciples for several years after that, before he went away and the disciples went around doing their thing. I think that one of those texts from the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Nag Hammadi text is called the Pistis Sophia, which is Greek. It means the faith of wisdom, and it's the story of the female aspect, the female angelic aspect, which went through the process of the fall, and yeah, so it's the story of that. But it's all about Jesus, and it focuses heavily on Mary Magdalene. In fact, that text, and it was left out of the Bible, of course. It's heavily female orientated, basically. It means it's basically focusing on the female aspect of God, the Mother, the Divine Mother, the Holy Spirit, and all of this stuff, exemplified by Mary Magdalene. Yeah. And I'll put some feedback for the Shroud of Turin in
Really
the chat.
interesting,
Yeah.
really interesing.
Yeah,
And
thanks,
I
Duncan, for
think
sharing
at
that.
some point the researchers said that in order to have that kind of imprint, the holographic imprint, at this point now in Earth today, we would have to use the entire force of some many lasers from the Earth for some nanoseconds only, and specifically a particular time, so not more, not less, in order to give that imprint. So it's really interesting, that one. Yeah.
Duncan, I would love for you to actually see that, the work that we did, because that was what we came up with. Obviously, we just had a number, so we had no idea what we were viewing. But I mean, that's the thing, that's what we were saying.
Yeah. Well, if
Yeah,
Um,
well, I
Duncan isn't
saw.
a subscriber,
Yeah,
I can if you contact me separately, I'll send
okay.
you a
Mm,
private link to view the RV
mm,
and the debrief and everything on it.
Yeah, well, I saw a couple of the images which you put on the screen, and they looked pretty amazing. And of course, it was a great joy to hear your personal experiences about that as well. Yeah.
It was a great joy for us to view. I can tell you, it was that. I think that was a life-changing experience. We had a question before about how has remote viewing changed you. Not actually. I mean, actually, remote viewing changed my ideas about time and things like that. But then there are specific sessions that change your whole heart energy and that kind of thing. And that was one of them. That it was extraordinary.
Which leads me on to another question, really, that I have from Facebook. Someone says, if you were to leave a legacy in remote viewing community, what would you like to be known for? Bit of a deep one. Any of you want to answer that one?
All right, I'll start with that one. Um, for always asking questions and searching for the truth, no matter how weird um, or profound that it is, for having the courage to make mistakes and just to have an honest, transparent sharing of my journey that other people can learn from. For other people can go, you know what? I'm not the only weirdo out there who's thought about that. And, because I talk about a lot of weird stuff on my own channel, in understanding that everybody can do this. We just have to have that open mind and the courage to really put it out there and try to ask those questions.
Any of you others want to tackle that one?
I don't want to come after Dennis. Sorry.
Now you know how I feel, Dimmy.
I'm not the viewer on it, but a legacy I want to leave is just to give as much information to people as possible, really, which I think I've been doing for quite some years now. A personal legacy, though, I would like to see remote viewing move out from. I think it's a bit static. I think for many years it's been set in a way looking towards the past, and I've probably been a part of that in process because I've been documenting, the historical aspects of remote viewing. What happened at SRI, what happened with Ingo, the Stargate archives, Ingo's archives, everyone else's archives. Um, and we all get a bit obsessed with that. I think we need to move past that and look at all the amazing people that are now coming forward. The great stuff and discussions and the experimentation that's happening on the Reddit and Discord kind of servers and forums. The kind of stuff that we're doing in future forecasting. A 10-year project of remote viewing every single week. Not is entirely in public, but it is in it is in front of a public audience that have access to it. So that's thousands and thousands of predictive RV sessions and that kind of thing. And there are other people doing similar stuff now. We get quite a lot of good stuff coming up on the Facebook group of people trying all these new projects. So yeah, my legacy I think would be to have a nod towards the past, but I think we all as practitioners need to think more about how we can push this now towards the future and develop it more for future and applications of the future. And let the past go a little bit. Okay, it was great. It was used for military spying and CIA spying, all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. That's our legacy. But let's move on. Any of us can develop this and bring in new ideas, new concepts, new theories, and develop it. So that's what I hope my future legacy on this would be. Now you can go,
Des,
Jimmy.
you nailed that, Des. I just want to say that you nailed that with everything that I think that you're doing. Well, you've done so much for this RV community, first as an archivist, but also in bringing other faces and voices into that and encouraging people to go out there and learn this and do it. And I think it's important, experiment, like learn the structure. That's the most important thing. But then as you're evolving as a viewer, experiment and see what you can do with it and see where it
Absolutely.
takes you. It's very important.
It's one of the things we talk about a lot, in the flow mentoring we do that, it's great to have the structure. Ingo Swan came up with an absolutely amazing genius way of deconstructing your psychic ability and getting it down on paper and also moving the signal from the noise and seeing the entire process on paper. It's genius. But that was the 80s. We're now, approaching huge new millennias with the AI integration and everything else. So yeah, we need to move on now. And it's great to see you guys doing it. I'm an old guy now. My generation's, coming to pass. That's why I'm enjoying what you guys and all the new generations are coming up with.
Just a shout out to the Discord friend here, David, who teach me that you can do stuff in so many ways. So I think he was kind of a promoter of the new things that are further on in remote viewing. But what my legacy would be, maybe, it's not entirely connected to remote viewing, but it's about remote viewing. If we can do this, what can we do more than as human beings? That's my question.
Susan, Carl, do you want to add anything to that, or should we move on? Because I think Duncan's got another one here. Go for it, Duncan.
Yeah, no, sorry, just a question to you, Daz. If you think that the community needs to move on in remote viewing, how do you, I mean, what do you have in mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the world has a lot of problems that potentially could be solved if groups of remote viewers, small groups, like you don't need like yeah, and it doesn't work with a large group of 10 or 20 remote viewers anyway. It's just too much information. But small groups of 4 or 5 people with a good tasker, maybe a good person doing analysis, the back end. I think if you got these people working together over a period of time, because you have to, like we're doing with Rapo, you have to learn to trust each other and then work in a symbiotic relationship, because that's what happens over time. You have to build this symbiotic relationship. So small groups working symbiotically on world related problems, cures for diseases, scientific breakthroughs, um, even if you have to, financial things, how giving people information on how to make a financial better future for themselves, which countries are going to be best to live in the next 5 years, 10 years, that kind of thing. There are so many things that we could do on a positive realm with remote viewing that aren't being done because people probably aren't being able to organize or have people to organize them. And in some degrees, it's good to have a little bit of funding to help you along the way with these kind of projects as well.
We've actually got that little group, Demi, David, called Delta, that Henny originally started and left it with me, but it's called a Problems and Solutions group, and that's exactly what we're doing. Again, we need somebody who's going to go and get money from clients. We need to publicize it, but we're building up now like a portfolio of work that we've done, and we've done some amazing sessions as well. So yeah, that's exactly that's a really good application of
So
remote viewing.
Is that Is any of that public, Carl? Because I haven't
Yeah,
seen any.
some of it is, but we haven't really published stuff.
Yeah.
But we addressed really, really, really hard issues from the whole world, like pollution, like how to prevent or how to recognize earthquake prior to being catastrophic, or how to build some things that would help, let's say, the antibiotic resistance not
Mm.
to be in the future. So real problem that are now on
I
the
don't.
wall.
I don't think
So
I've seen any of that. You guys need to get that.
Well,
we didn't
I
show it.
I've only presented, and I presented at the remote viewing conference in Ireland in summer, was that the work we did on finding some kind of support system for school-going children with autistic syndrome. So I don't know how you say that politically correctly, but with those kind of problems, finding somewhere, and a lot of us, because we do this thing where describe the problem, describe the solution, and then actually do like a timeline into the future where that it's going to be implemented. And we found some very interesting conspiracy related information about what caused it. So it,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a very interesting job that, and we've
sounds
got a
great.
nice presentation too.
Let's get their sessions out there. I'll help you publish them or something. Build a forum for them or
They are
something.
amazing,
Do
amazing
you
sessions
need
for
it?
this.
Like, I mean, we're in a public forum now. Do you need what do you need to make this public and get the information
We
out?
need funding. We need investors.
Okay,
No,
have you thought?
we need a person who's going to do sell our work to clients
Okay.
and get it out there. We need a site, but at the moment, all we're doing is sitting quietly and working, building up a portfolio.
Well, maybe if you
That's
put
what we're
out public
doing.
posts on the Facebook thing, not giving all the information, but an overview of what you wanted to do, and see if anyone comes up with some ideas for
Yeah,
funding. Maybe like setting up a Patreon channel where subscribers pay
as
ten
well.
dollars each a month, and you give them a little
We,
bits of data and stuff.
yeah. And we're working on an important project at the moment. I know what it is because I'm semi-tasking on it, so
Don't
I'll keep
say Coral
quiet.
nothing.
Yeah,
Please
no
don't say
target talk.
nothing.
Nothing.
Didn't peaks.
Yeah.
You know, that is one of the greatest qualities of a remote viewer, and that is curiosity. And let me say that as a child, I was so curious that my mother used to buy Christmas presents in advance, and I knew where all the presents had been hidden before Christmas, and I knew who was going where. And that is, I think, one of the qualities you need to have as a remote viewer. So,
Hello.
Daz, you're muted if you
Yeah.
were talking.
Sorry, Duncan. Does that answer your question, or do you have
Ah,
a follow up or anything?
well, yeah, sort of, yeah. I was just going to add that, yeah, I think it's great to be able to solve insurmountable problems that, can't be solved in any other way because remote viewing has something to offer which nothing else does. But yeah, I also thought that, and maybe you can give me your opinion on this, that it's also important to touch people on an individual level because for me, remote viewing, okay, if you can't win the lottery with remote viewing, if you can't get really, really good data on a target for which you have no feedback, someone could just turn around and say, well, what's the point in remote viewing? And I think the point to remote viewing is that when the individual or the beginner starts to do remote viewing, they suddenly see that it's possible. Their mind is suddenly open to a greater possibility that there's something out there, that there's more to the world than three-dimensional materiality. And so it makes people come out of their spiritual mind box and can open their mind into a new reality. Now, I think that this is important because somebody mentioned earlier about some type of extremely dark negative future which the human race is facing, and we are all in this together after all. And I think it's all. Somebody also said that there is also an incredibly bright future. which the human race is facing. And the way that we get to the bright future, of course, is by working together, sharing, forming groups as you guys are, doing your work, whatever it is, using this, some people would say using spiritual gifts, using the gifts that you've been given. My question is, do you think that it's a good thing I know people charge a lot of money to learn remote viewing. Do you think it's a good idea to simply open source everything, to just teach people, just put it all online, something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll answer this a little bit and see what the others want to add to this, because I am a person that's charging a lot of money to teach people. I charge around about £4,000 a person to teach them.
Well, you
But I
have to
don't,
earn a living as well, right?
yeah, but I put, that's 14 months of me personally marking 125 RV sessions for each student, as well as bi-weekly meetings, almost 24/7 access if they have questions, kind of thing. So that's why I charge so much, because I have to live. But at the same time, myself and other people do put free resources out. I do have a free remote viewing condensed template on my website with a guide on how to do it and stuff. But I literally can't give 100% of me without finding a way to pay the rent at the same time. It's just
Yeah, no, I
impossible.
understand. You have a special skill to give, and it's worth it to
Yeah.
get something in return for the special
I think as a
experience that you have.
community, there are lots of free resources out there, way more than when I started in 96, 97. There was literally nothing. So I think anyone starting today has huge amounts of resources. Like, just like these videos we're doing here on a Friday night that are on remoteview.com, there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of questions from some of the top people in the field that you can get answers for. It would be nice if everything was free. Yeah, but as we know, people got to pay the rent.
But hang on, also, can I just say something here? If you look at the number of hours, I mean, people always say, oh, remote viewing training is so expensive. But when I broke it down into the cost per hour, what I'm getting paid per hour, it's less than what I think I'm worth. It turns out to be about like 10, no, 15, 20 euros an hour for the amount of time that you dedicate to a student. So, and I'm sure if you broke down your hours, Daz, into that cost, that's what you would find. And that's not a lot of money. I mean, I go to an osteopath and he charges me 50 euro an hour. So, and a lot of it's done for free. So, people expect you to remote view for free and then also to train for free. And I've given many, many, many. In fact, I got absolutely poor to support my habit of remote viewing because, so many people ask you to view, to do this, to do that. And there's so many pro bono cases. I mean, 10, 15, 20 hours easily because each session takes you 3 or 4 hours. Do a typed summary, scan it, send it in, reply to questions. And I've spent 20 years developing the skill. So people, an engineer or a doctor with the same amount of experience that I have would be getting way more than I get. It's just because it's a new subject doesn't mean it should not be paid for. And unfortunately, we live in an economy that's based on that. If we all had a basic income, then it would be different, wouldn't it?
Excellent. Thanks for answering that as well, Carl. I'm going to hurry on a little bit because we are approaching like 1 hour 45. And Brendan's had his hand up for quite some time there. If you want to have a chat, Brendan.
I just was wondering if any of you have any concerns regarding the data from the 2027 project that you guys did a few years back. The original future forecasting group clearly saw COVID before it came. So if you see any correlation there, and what all of you think regarding that.
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I try not to talk about this too much, to be honest. And because I have had a lot of instances in future forecasting group where I've inadvertently or been properly tasked to look at future events that seem to be catastrophic in nature. So I've had several that I have on my record, which I'm kind of waiting for to happen to see if I get feedback. Although I'd rather they didn't happen because I don't want the feedback from them. But I'm not going to go into those because, as I said, I don't like to talk about them. But these guys did a project a few weeks back looking at, because there is a rumor online, or there's been a not rumor, but there's been discussions online about how some of the top people and the whistleblowers in the UAP circuit are discussing that they're aware that there's going to be a catastrophic event. So I tasked the Rabbit Hole guys to actually see if, and I have to say this, if there was going to be a catastrophic event between the years 2025 and 2035, which seems to be the window that everyone says this event's going to happen. And it was a bit of an ARV target in that if there was going to be an event, they should describe the event. But if no catastrophic event, I think the target said the catastrophic event would devastate the United States of America as my focal point. But if there wasn't going to be a catastrophic event, then they would describe. I think it was Monument Valley, wasn't it? I think. And I'll let these guys. They're the ones with the data, so I'll let them describe what they think they got on that data. Bearing in mind as well, and we have to be honest with this, like the Free Eye Atlas that we've all recently just done as well. There is so many people theorizing, talking about, wondering about this now potential catastrophic event that there is a very big probability that the remote viewers might be just picking up the social construct noise and interpreting that as real data, or they might be picking up real data. We just don't know. But I'll let these guys, maybe have something to say on this one.
I think it's important to hold also the perspective of at some point I think we're dealing with probabilities, and I think that the more we focus on it, the more attention we draw to it, the more we could possibly call that timeline into existence. I do try to be very mindful of those things. From what I remember about my session, it was intense. And my session was slightly different than the rest of the teams in terms of I was focused on consciousness and our awareness of things and a change that was impacting the mind with some kind of energetic sky-based event. We can interpret that as AI, tying into human consciousness. We can interpret it as some kind of celestial event, some kind of electromagnetic event. I'm not really sure. But I did clearly get that our perception of it and our mindset is very important because I think that depending on how we perceive it will impact how we experience it. Change is going to happen within the next 5 years. Change is definitely, we're going to continue to see it. But I think our state of mind will impact how that affects us in a lot of ways. But I know the rest of the team had different sets of data, some of it involving some significant water events as well, if they want to talk on that.
I just want to talk about something else, which is I recall when the FFRG team saw the explosions, big explosions in the world, and a lot of smoke and disaster, and it was the volcano that erupted, and so they seen much, much bigger of an event than the actual one. So these things can happen to also to our sessions. And exactly like as Dennis said, I completely forgot that I did this target. So I don't pay attention at all. I really completely forgot about this one. So I don't think, I think it's going to be something that's is to choose from the probability that could happen, but also I think we in these kind of targets we see the sum of fear of all And sometimes we can see, we can view in remote viewing exactly the fear of all the people happening for whatever, I don't know, in US, in Europe or whatever, disaster or catastrophic. We've seen waters, we've seen, but I don't know if it's true. I did that, but I am trusting my data a lot, but I cannot see this as a future probability. It's just data and move further. That's it.
Anyone else on that one, or are you done on that one?
We're trying not to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think Dennis said it right. We don't want to put. We're trying not to put energy towards it really, because we're hoping that the less energy we put towards it, then the less chance of being a part of making it a reality.
And just real quick to piggyback on what Demi said, that was the La Palma volcano. And I always remember that session because there's a world events, and all of us drew a mushroom cloud. And so the first one's like mushroom cloud, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look good. And then viewer after viewer, we're all looking at and we laugh about it because we try to keep it light. But we walked away from that going, oh my gosh, are we going to see an atomic bomb? And we try very hard not to project like, oh my gosh, there's a nuclear holocaust coming. But inside, you're processing that, and then you see the volcano, and it was awful for La Palma and the people on that island. But once you see the imagery, and you're like, wow, thank goodness we didn't create all that fear and that hype saying there's a nuclear blast coming because we all drew this mushroom cloud. So we processed that information, and then it ended up being not as catastrophic as we
Yeah.
interpreted our sessions to be, which was
But yeah,
very
Dimi was
important.
right in as well as what she said, and this is something I've observed in getting lots of correct predictions over the last 10 years. In that the uh, the thing I'm sketching in my RV and that I'm predicting, when that actually happens as an event, especially a catastrophic event, um, the actual magnitude of the event itself is of a degree less, something like 5 times less than how it appeared in my RV session. It's almost like in doing the RV, you're kind of like expanding it a little bit more than it should be. You're seeing it bigger than it should be. So in the analysis, you need to condense that down and say, okay, that's had a big, huge, massive mushroom cloud. It might be a mushroom cloud, but it's not going to be a nuclear explosion. It's going to be something just a little bit smaller of a magnitude less than that. So that's something we see as a pattern across the board, really. But yeah, we try not to think about it too much. But saying this, in future forecasting group just the other night we did this target. I don't know if I should be talking about this for you, but I'm going to. Naeem was here as well, and the target was looking ahead to 2050 to what how VR virtual reality is going to impact our lives. And wow, the technologies we all described as a view as a group on that is scary. I have to be honest, the scary thoughts of moving human subconsciousness into robotic beings and all kinds of very strange stuff like that scares the hell out of me. So yeah, we're even getting
It was
stuff like
intense.
that.
I did the analysis on that. That was an intense one, not to scare people.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Same thing with COVID. We didn't know how to interpret the data, and it was so scary. And like COVID sucked. But when I look back at how afraid I was before COVID, looking at this data to what actually happened, like I had to sit inside and it sucked, and people I know got sick, and that was scary. But it wasn't what the sessions were telling us beforehand. So I'm hoping this 2050 virtual reality is not as
Yeah.
dark and scary as the sessions seem because we're getting just a small piece of what is coming to our future, and a lot of it is tech we don't understand yet, and that's a scary thing in and of itself.
Yeah. We did have some questions in the window here. I just see one from Yana just now, but I think it's for some reason gone off my scope and disappeared. Okay.
She asked me how to. I think she asked me how to train. How did I train my subconscious to work in English? Well, it's through exercise after exercise, looking in dictionary and I wrote the Romanian words down, and I was unhappy about it. So I tried to learn more English and more English and more English and read books. And I know my English is not perfect when I'm trying to speak or to express what I wanted to say, but when I'm doing that in writing, it's more flow than in my speaking. But it's about exercising. It's exercising, then looking in dictionary, for real. Just looking in dictionary to write to find the proper word in sometimes, even now.
Thanks for that, Demi. We'll get to Duncan in a minute. I just want to read out this comment from Margie. She says, to Susan, I wanted to say how I loved your sketches on the turkey target, the UAP one we just did. You leaning in to share your sketches really inspired her. Sketching really does help kinesthetically connect to the target, and stage three is one of the hardest stages for them. How do you feel about stage three and sketching, Susan?
I'm quite adverse to drawing in my sessions. And I think part of the problem is because I do paint and draw. So when I start drawing, if I kind of go into it too much in the session, I'm going to spend the whole time just drawing and not viewing. And now I'm kind of discovering what I like doing is doing the session and just putting on the side what I'm seeing just to remind me. And it's almost like when you're doing dream work, right? Because I paint dreams as well, going back into the session and kind of really feeling for what I really saw and what feels like it needs to be drawn or could be drawn. And even like with the last project, I was just getting like parts of the body. So I do well. I really saw this forehead really clearly. So I started with that, and then I saw the rib cage really clearly. Then went and did that, and then finally I went back in and drew much more of the figure. But that's kind of where I'm at the moment, and it does make a huge difference. But yeah, I'm finding I'm having to do like a whole separate session just to do the drawings. Yes.
And again, it's an individual process, isn't it? You find it hard to do sketching in the stage view part of your RV session. So we're now moving it so that you do it as a separate almost like component afterwards. And if that's the way it works for you, then that's the way to do it because it works that way for you. Excellent, guys. Duncan, you had your hand up again.
Yeah, I did I had my hand up, but I thought I was talking too much. I was going to let somebody else ask a
Yeah,
question.
no worries. Yeah.
Because yeah, I just tried to keep it brief because people were talking about a negative future, scary AI, which is coming in, technology, which is going to rule our brains and things like this. And I just wanted to say that it's it's about fear, because fear is how they control us. Because it's like the rabbit caught in the headlights. It's petrified with fear. That's why they use fear and to try to control people. But the antidote to fear is hope and love inside your own heart, which you have to go forward with in life. No matter what scary AI they come out with, you have to remember that your body, your human mind, the crystals in your brain are the higher communication method. You are the higher intelligence. You are the greatest machine. You know what I mean? They can't create anything which the human body can do. And you need to keep that positivity inside you because the future could become so negative that that's the only thing that's going to see you through. Positivity, which you keep in your heart. So that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Duncan. Thanks for sharing.
Can I comment on that real quick, Duncan? I completely agree. I process a lot of the heavy stuff through writing. And I'm an author, and I wrote a science fiction series looking at, thanks to one of Edward's famous or infamous cue ball sessions, looking at what happens when a mind gets taken over by AI and becomes a hive mind. And my series evolved in looking at, we always think dark and dystopian, but my goal is to challenge readers to question, like, what if we find a way of symbiosis? How does the emotion of love and connection and humanity, how does that carry through if we embrace that and we lean into that? So does it have to be this dark, awful, horrible experience, even though it's this dystopian theme? We have this great capacity for love through our connection to one another. If we can move past that fear and lean into the positive aspects of it. And I think that's very
Yeah.
important to hold that for sure,
Well,
Duncan.
yeah. Well, just one thing that I would add is that AI is a tool, and like any tool,
Yes,
it can be used for good or for bad. So it just
absolutely.
depends on what you think the intentions are of the people who are giving it to you, creating it and controlling it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Agree.
Excellent, guys. Thanks for that. We're getting close to finishing this one. D. Peters, you've had your hand up for a while.
Hi, Des.
Hey
Yeah,
there.
it's hello, it's Des from X. It's not really a question. I mean, I've been here from the beginning, and I've just really been soaking it all in, listening to all you remote viewers. Des knows that once I discovered what it's like on the X space when all the remote viewers come up, I'm like, wow, compared to all of the people who are, ufologists or not even the experiencers, but the remote viewers seem to stay quiet until they come together and then they really show what their level of consciousness is, their experiences. And I was kind of floored by that. And I started to kind of do spaces with remote viewing in the title. So I've just been quiet today. I'm an experiencer, I'm neurodivergent. I had to just soak in the energy. And now I kind of understand why Daz doesn't really speak that much on spaces because I think there's just so much there. And it's kind of like, it's not wasting your time, but I get it. I needed to be more in your kind of world, I guess. And I'm really grateful for that. And I hope that I can come back next time. And also, I wanted to say to Dennis as well, your vibe is really infectious. Are you on X as well? I've never come across you before.
Thank you so much. I'm on X. I'm not too active or busy on X. I do have I put a lot of my focus into my YouTube channel and into Substack as well. I've recently started a Substack where I'm putting a lot of efforts into. Thank you for your kind words.
But Daz, this is Daz talking to the other Daz. uh, it gets confusing in spaces. I'm sure these guys would love to, if you want to do a space and get any of these guys on, they'd love to dialogue with you on something like that.
That would be really cool, actually. I mean, I would definitely because I do my spaces every Friday, in it, Daz. And then
Yeah.
when you told me that this was coming, I said, okay, I'm not going to do a space because I want to actually come here and just be a part of this. But if there is opportunity to get some more remote viewers in, and I'll definitely speak with Direct and Buddy, my friend, to Alien Protocols, and just really explore more of you guys' consciousness, some of your targets, and the wisdom that you've gleaned from that. And I mean, I remember reading, is it John McMoneagle's remote viewing book? It's over 20 years ago, and I hear what Duncan's saying. The moment you get exposed to this, it shifts something in your consciousness in terms of the reality that we're actually in, and just being a part of a group now, not part of it, but witnessing you guys, I'm just like, wow, like this is incredible. But I still haven't actually done it myself. So imagine how I would feel if I take the time to do it myself. I think I'm just still scared. I have psychic abilities, but they're random, and this is very deliberate. And I need to cross that threshold. So yeah, you've helped me a lot today. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's great that you came along and it's great to share. Dennis has put his email address in the chat window if you want to grab that. If you don't have a time to do that, though, just DM me and I can send you the contact details for all these guys and see what you want to arrange and stuff. Um, it's coming up to 2 hours now, guys. Is there any last questions that anyone wants to ask or talk about before we call this a night? It's been great questions so far. Lots of dialogue. Any last ones? No. So, oh well, let's go to the viewers then. Anything you guys want to say? I'm going to put the ball in your court, firmly in your court. Is there anything you want to say? Any words of encouragement or anyone? Because we have a mixed bunch of people here, all different kinds of abilities, and even some new people to consciousness and remote viewing and stuff.
Just be curious and try it because it's gonna come a lot of personal gain from this. So just do it.
I'd say trust your intuition, test your intuition, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Communicate, find your method of communication, find your art form. I think remote viewing and creativity go hand in hand. And whatever your creative outlet is, whether it's painting, drawing, sketching, writing, use that to better understand your own mind and how you work. There's a lot of introspection that happens. Don't be afraid to take those risks and explore it. You really learn a lot through that process about yourself and then about this reality that we're in.
Do you have anything to add, Coral, on this one?
Um, there's a lot of information out there about how to take your first steps, remote viewing, but it's something that one should try for oneself, because there's nothing like the actual experience to understand what it is. Obviously, the deepening brings you to all sorts of realizations about your own self, your own subconscious, learning to trust, learning to believe. That I mean, that learning to trust thing, that took me a really long time, but that really has changed me. So it's something happens after years of remote viewing that changes you profoundly and changes your worldview and shows you that what's going on out there is not what you think it is. It's not just face value. It's a lot more. I mean, there's all those other things about conspiracy and humans just being slaves and all of that. But when if once you do a remote viewing session for yourself and you look at the feedback and you've drawn it on your page, then you realize that you're not just that slave that you were bred to be. So.
Thanks for that, Coral.
Mm.
Susan, would you like to add anything before we?
I'll just add like everything that everyone said, but I also just find it's the wonderful practice. It's a wonderful, like we do get to do it weekly, but it's a wonderful practice and for tuning into yourself and for evolving everything else. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's really good.
and like Susan, I agree with all the comments there. And I'll just sign up by saying, it's remote viewing can change life, but listening to your intuition and your creativity on any level, and you're using any of the skills out there can also do the same thing. But it's good that I find it great that we all come together on a Friday night well, Friday night for us in the UK and Europe, but Friday day for you guys where we could be doing other things. So it's great that we are coming together in forums like this and in other forums like Discord and Facebook and stuff, and we're all sharing. So it's heartening to see this happening, and just keep doing it. If you have any questions, reach out to any of the people here that you see tonight. If you can find us publicly, we'll try to help you in any way we can with, pointing you in the right direction towards mentoring, training, or just answering your general questions. There's lots of information out there, and as you can see from what these guys have been doing, and what I've been doing in other groups and stuff, humans have unlimited capability to access any information anywhere in time and space. The human mind has unlimited powers, which is why the non-humans are interested in this that much. So yeah, let's round that off today. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for all the fantastic comments, questions, and intercourse here today. It's been really, really great.
Thank you. Thank you all, and thank you,
And
Daz.
thanks to you, Rabbit
Yeah,
Hole guys, as well
thanks.
for
Thank you,
answering all those
Daz.
questions.
Thanks, everybody.
It's a
Yeah, thanks
pleasure.
everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you
Yeah.
soon.
See you
Take care,
soon.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Namaste.